Kim, welcome to the Campfire sessions. Unfortunately, you didn't make the decision to go outside, but it's totally cool, and I think it's actually really funny because I get a lot of those responses from people when they jump on the call. We think about doing podcasts and doing conversations like this inside of stuffy rooms, but coming outside and actually connecting with the land. I think that's one of the most fundamental aspects of wellness that I've encountered, at least.
Yeah, I would have to agree, and, like I was sharing with you before we started, I wish I would have tried. I just didn't think that I would have a good connection, so I guarantee you, if we ever talk again, I'll be outside.
I get that too. I get a lot of people that when they get on, it's like, shock and awe. And then by the end of it, they're like, next time I'll be outside. And that's what a lot of the work that I've done over the last probably year and a half is incorporated because the podcast itself, it's interesting. I started out with the goal of talking exclusively with people in the outdoor community, but I've ended up in this little circle where 90% of who I work with are so foreign to the outdoors.
Mhm. I yeah, I can see how that would happen. I spent my whole life working inside. I ran a gym for a long time, and I worked with people who I don't know, when we're younger, we think everything has to be done in this little windows of time. And, so people would squeeze in their workouts and their exercise at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And if you're one of those people, that's fine. But gosh, now that I have the freedom to exercise the way I want and the way my body likes, the bulk of it is done outdoors. Just because there's so many more benefits to just, being outside than simply working out, right?
So you've restructured, and now 90% at least of what you do physically for exercise is involved in the outdoors. Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like.
For the most part, it's walking. I live in central Iowa, so this time of year, it's incredible. Similar to what I think it looks like where you're at. I have blue skies and the leaves are changing and the weather's incredible, and I just like to walk. And I don't, I used to try and get so many steps in. I used to try and, go faster. And now I just am out and I don't listen to anything when I walk. I just listen to nature. I talk to God. I think through things that I need to think through and just really try to experience my exercise. In the wintertime, we have the good fortune to be in Florida. And so my routine switches up. And again, I'm walking, but I greet every sunrise on the sand and just move my body in a way that feels good now. And there's no rules. If I make it for half an hour one day, I do. If I make it for 4 hours one day, I do. So,
That's the interesting part about putting, your physical activity outside is there are no rules.
right.
It all ends up being whatever it is you feel you can do that day within the context of whatever it is you can incorporate. And I find a lot of people that I work with, that is like the most juggernaut kind of thought because they come to me thinking, we're going to do this meditative stuff
Mhm.
and it's got to look this and this and this way. But then when we get out on the trail and we're focusing a lot on like walking meditations, and they realize that it's not anything that they had preconceived, it
Mhm.
opens up the door for so much more than just the physical. You start doing the spiritual and the emotional growth and healing, which is a very fascinating thing to not only undergo, but also walk and facilitate.
Yes. Yes, I would agree. And I would add to that a creative healing as well. There are times when I knew that I wanted to write a book and I was in fact working on it, and I would just get so jammed up, so backed up and not be able to do anything but somehow putting my feet on the earth and moving. it opened it up. But I eventually incorporated my writing with my being outside, and I just picked up an inexpensive recorder, and a lot of my book that I eventually published and or transcribed and then published is written on a recorder as I was moving. It's there's something amazing and very um I don't know. I don't know. It just opens everything up, right? I mean, like I connect better with God when I'm outside. I connect better with my own head when I'm inside, and I connect better with my emotions when I'm outside. So, yeah, I want a job like yours. I want I
I love that. It's funny because, like, where I find myself now, it's not been a whole lot of fun and game in getting here, but it's been some of the most transitioning and fulfilling work to actually walk the journey or walk the outline of what it is that I help other people with. And to know that I actually have walked it and felt the success myself, it adds a special, almost, almost like a special layer to it because people can really touch that, connect with it.
Mhm.
That's something that going outside, regardless of what you do or what your intentions are, you instantly begin to feel. You feel the earth underneath you supporting you. And then from there, it's almost like moving out of survival mode because you see all these other things within your environment that can help you to craft the direction in life that you want to go.
Yep. And there's something very empowering for me, at least at with my feet in the sand in front of the ocean, you know. Um, so much of my life I feel like I need to be in control. And I've got to manage these things and I have deadlines and I've got to take care of things. But when you're standing there, you know, you realize how small you really are and how much if you just let go of that control and you sometimes just let things be or let things happen or others help you, how much better life can be.
Well, that I really think about a lot of the time that I spend on the trail where I'm watching, say a squirrel run around and
Mhm,
collect nuts, especially this time of year. A lot of those nuts that he's collecting off the ground, he's had help in getting because the wind is blowing them down, or a bird has landed in that tree and knocked everything off branch, and it gives him the opportunity to not only within the moment live and experience while doing his work, but also to prepare for whatever's coming down the line.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's kinda cool. Hadn't you watch them. I watch everything moving around, it's autumn here, and as I look out my window talking to you today, there's a big old buck with a broken leg right there, and he likes to stick in this area because I think he knows he's safe. But, there's just so much that's interconnected and really beautiful if you take time to pay attention to it.
A lot of that gets developed off of really putting intention behind building like a mindfulness practice.
Mhm,
You know, dedicating maybe 5 minutes in the morning to just sitting in stillness and being alone with your thoughts and realizing that when I step outside the door, there's so many examples that I can apply to my life as far as growth and intention and every other part of life that I might be struggling with at the moment.
mhm. Yes, that's it's the same way for me. Um, and there are times where I'm sitting inside and maybe prayer and is very important to me. But there are times where I'm inside in a formal space that's perfectly quiet. All the things are right. I might have my Bible open. I'm trying to pray and it doesn't happen. It just I mean, like, it's the ideal situation for what I'm trying to do. but yet I can, walk out the door and not have any sort of preparedness, and something strikes me, whether it's a breeze or a noise or a smell or an animal walking by, and it's all right there. Like everything that I try to plan for and I try to make intentional, and it doesn't happen. And then just by opening yourself up to what's surrounding you, and it's like it's automatic almost. Your body knows what to do. My body knows what to do in that moment of time. It's amazing. We live in a pretty cool place, you know?
We do, and unfortunately, and I know I've been victim of this a lot in my life, is we miss out on it because we're too focused on that hustle and bustle, and we got to collect the next shiny thing, and then that journey ends up coming to a screeching halt, and
Mhm,
that's where the opportunity ends up smacking you in the face to slow down, to start really understanding and develop that curious side of you,
mhm,
which when you chase that curious trail, you really come to terms with the flow of things in the world, the way that each block is built upon the next, because it needs the support of the blocks that are around it in order to stand up.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that makes me think, so I'm a new grandmother. And, everyone's always told me all along how amazing it is to be a grandparent, right? I mean, it's so much better than being a parent. And I just always thought, okay, whatever, being a parent was pretty cool. But to go along with what you're saying, like for me now, when I was raising my kids, I was so busy and so ingrained in my career and making things meet and where I had to be at what time that, I mean, like, I enjoyed them growing up, and I think I participated in them growing up, but I wasn't really paying attention. And so come full circle, now that I'm my life is a little slower, and, and I have time, and I have time to be an observer. Oh my gosh, there's so many really cool things that happen when these children are growing up that I didn't notice before. I watch my grandsons going through these milestones and think, that didn't happen when my kids were, when my boys were 1. That didn't, but of course they did. It's just if people could learn to be in their lives and observant in their lives, they could be really incredible. Just and I think that we could get rid of a lot of our problems in life. I think stress probably causes most of our problems health-wise, and, if people could just learn to take that step out, even once in a while, or even for a few minutes, how good could life be?
That's where we all struggle, though, is finding that moment in our lives that encourages us to slow down. And I know a lot of in my work, I encourage people to do just that, because when I look back on my trail, being a father 4 times, each time was different based off of the experience in the situation that I was in, which built the vocabulary that I had to deal with things in the moment. And as it's progressed, and even as I guess matured and found different stages in life, it's taught me the benefits of slowing down, of sitting against a tree, and just learning to utilize that power of observation. Because through observation, a lot of the problems that stress incorporates in our lives with us trying to figure out things, when you sit and slowly observe, those answers kind of almost unfold naturally for you.
Mhm, mhm. I would agree with that, and I spent a lot of time, so I have a certification, with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and through going through that process, it taught me some tricks and some habits that a person can use, in their nutrition life or in their health journey, but also in life. And they talk a lot about crowding out. And like sometimes we want to make a change in our lives. Like you knew that you needed to slow down But but for some people, slowing down's just not an option, right? You've got the bills to pay or the kids to take care of and the things. So you can't just make the decision to quit your full-time job and live a life that's slower, right? But if we would start looking at things a little bit at a time. So getting outside, exercising, eating, whatever it is, I've tried to encourage people to look at all the little opportunities. Like sometimes if you have 1 minute, if you're having just a crummy day or you're, stressful or you're at work or whatever, and you have 1 minute to take a step outside and to feel the sun on your face and to listen or to smell what's around, it can make all the difference in that day. And then once you start practicing it and you do it for 1 minute, and you start realizing that little brain break or that little body break can make a difference. It's a lot easier to find a 5 minute window. And then it's a little bit easier to find that 10-minute window. And then it's a little bit easier to decide, okay, it's important for me to spend my lunch hour walking. I'm going to take 30 minutes and I'm going to say no to the extra phone call or no to the extra task. And I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to get outside and I'm going to experience things. And if people would just start like crowding out, right? Crowding out the chaos and taking those little tiny moments of good and inserting them into their lives, change happens very quickly. You start to appreciate it. And I know people now who like they've gotten to a point where lunch hours are non-negotiable. They're not going to sit at their desk. They're not going to eat at their desk. They're not going to, you know, listen to the thing. They want to be outside. They want to be in nature, moving and taking care of themselves.
I think, on top of the mastery journey that it takes to get there, you've also got to undertake that journey of self-confidence though,
Mm.
because we all have these things that we want and that we desire to be able to do, but we're so afraid to say no because our identity is so rooted within all those things that are bringing stress to the table. If you say no to one simple thing, a lot of us are afraid of the fact that we're going to get passed by next time. And we look
Yeah.
at that in a negative light. If we started to change the vocabulary around just that little image right there,
Mhm.
of saying no doesn't define who we are. We still have that worth. We still have that unique value that nobody else is going to bring to the table. Then it becomes a little bit easier to wipe your brow, take that sweat off your forehead, and actually enjoy these things that we claim we're going to make time for,
Mhm.
and make time and actually make them meaningful within our lives.
Yeah. I agree. And the thing is you don't have to say no to anything. If something comes up and if like I try to live a life of no, right? Um and and but there are those moments where something comes up and it's going to benefit. That sounds wrong. It's gonna benefit me, but it's not gonna benefit me in the bright, shiny toy kind of way, that's not what I'm saying. But if it's something that's gonna fill my heart or something that's going to, um, grow my way of thinking, it's okay to say yes once in a while. People just I don't know, it's not we can't live in an all or nothing world, right? There is so much good in the gray zone, and that gray zone involves um, ebbing and flowing and changing your mind once in a while. And yeah.
It really does. And I think that where it gets confused for most of our society is the emphasis that is put on production, reaching the goals and the results. But on the other hand, it's also put on the distraction. So if you're not producing, then you should be distracting yourself.
Mhm.
And where I feel like we're going in this conversation is we're working toward changing that vocabulary, changing that narrative to where it becomes okay to just step away,
Mhm.
find some stillness. And when you do that, you're not changing the value that you hold. You're actually improving it.
Mhm. And it comes in defining what wholeness is, what rich is, what complete and worthy is. you know, money and a job title, you know, prestige, all those things, those are never going to like make you whole. And I think that's where people struggle. And I think that's where our society struggles right now is it's the things, right? It's the fame, the fortune, the number of followers, the number of clicks on a podcast or reviews on the book. And those aren't the things. It's who did I help today? What did I learn today? What did I experience? Ho and if people could just turn their eye, and I don't mean, like, give it all up and, you know, go live off the land. If you can, that's super. I can't, you know? But gosh, I've tried to take the importance off those things that I can quantify, right? And really place the emphasis on the things that I can experience.
I feel like that's a very scary thing, though. I know looking back in the rearview mirror, it was very scary to try to transition the idea of somebody giving me my identity or my worth based off of a paycheck or, a job title or, even within friends and family, the way that they view you,
Mhm,
to all of a sudden, I'm going to pick up a hatchet and I'm going to start carving out who I am. I'm going to
mhm.
carve out my identity, my worth, and my value. And, at the end of the day, I feel like that is probably some of the most solid footing that someone can stand on is when you've built the authentic things that really matter for yourself.
Mhm. You know, the only thing I would say is I believe everyone's born with worth. There's no question in my mind. What you have to carve out is your identity, and that should be between you and for me, my maker, for others, you know, whatever they believe in. But we're all worthy. We're all born capable. We're all we like from day one, we should have nothing to prove to anyone except ourselves, right? And I think we have to be valuable members of society. We have to care for other people. We have to be good friends. And if we choose to have kids, we have to be good parents. And um, if we choose to work, we have to be good employees. I think all those things, but ultimately, my worth and my goodness and my legacy lies in the things I choose, right? And but boy, it's taken a long time to get here. Just like you're saying, looking in the rearview mirror, there are plenty of times where like, I did everything I could to be the person that you turned to or he turned to or whoever because they knew I was going to get the job done and I was going to do it better than anybody else. And you know, I'm proud of the things that I accomplished, but those aren't the things that somebody's going to list in my obituary someday. And those aren't the things that my kids and my grandchildren and my husband are going to remember if I were gone. And I've just really when you start thinking about living a life that other people remember, you know, and want to build their life around, that's when you really start living. You know, I want my kids to remember the traditions and the experiences that I participated in with them, and I want them to love them so much that they do them with their kids, and their kids do them with their kids, and life, yeah. I don't regret any part of my life, but I really love my life now that I've started looking at my value in human form rather than money form.
I don't think it's at any point of a journey about looking back and holding on to the regret. But I also think that to let go of that regret, it's almost, and you brought it up, the idea of death. Our society nowadays, we are so disconnected from those sort of things because, yeah, it's kind of scary.
Mhm.
And you think back to the way things used to be, where it was a coming together and a celebration. It wasn't about what was on the other side. And we
Mhm.
put all the emphasis on there on the fact that, tomorrow we're not going to be here when that day comes. And I think a lot about how we also distract ourselves and we try to kind of build this false identity based on avoiding that. And it brings to mind one of the monumental shifts in my journey was coming across the line in the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, where he talked about, you know, are you fearing death right now because you can't do this and this thing? And when you put it in that kind of perspective, it inevitably makes you kind of think about where you're spending your time, where your values truly lie within your heart, and incorporating a way to express those sort of things.
Mhm. Yeah, as I get closer, and I surely hope I'm a long ways away, right? I'm in my late 50s, and so obviously, you got to think about things. But gosh, there's not a thing that I have to do before I go, and there's not a place I have to go before I go. But gosh, there's a lot of people that I want to experience time with before I go, and that is a big change for me. My bucket list is still there, but they involve experiences with people. And that's a shift in itself for me.
I think that's a shift that we all can make, and that's a shift that ultimately makes this journey worthwhile because when you look at things from that sort of value, you uncover your purpose.
Mhm,
You uncover the true direction that you should be walking in this journey to get the most out of the experiences that you face.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think a big piece of it for me is like I told you, I mean, I spend a lot of time in prayer and in meditation, and I'm not worried about what's on the other side. I'm not worried at all. But but I want to leave an impact of love and legacy and memories um and good people when I go. And so, yeah, I just don't I guess I don't even think about death because I'm living my life now. I used to worry that I wasn't going to get it all in, and because I was too busy. And there are a lot of people probably who listen to you or who are listening to us, when the time comes that think, yeah, right, but you don't go to work 40 hours a week or you don't have to do this or whatever. No, I don't. But if I could do it all over again, I would have taken more time. Um, I've coached and counseled my kids to take more time, and they do. Um, it just there is just you have to prioritize. Like you said, you have to realize what's important and what's not as you move forward in life, and what can you take with you, right? We
Right?
can't take money and things with us, but you can take love and relationship and family, and you can give them all the same. So,
And I think that's actually a beautiful way of putting. There's an old native saying about the fact that being here, we're not borrowing or we're not inheriting this land from the people that walked before us. We're actually borrowing it from the ones that are yet to come.
mhm,
And when you look at it through that veil, it puts such an emphasis on stewardship, on
mhm,
caretaking, and you can practice all those things in taking care of the land. And what you're teaching yourself is how to take care of yourself
mhm,
to get to a point where when that day comes, you're not walking around fearing it. You're actually embracing it because you lived your purpose, you enjoyed the experience, which is
mhm,
what I think, the human experience is all about is actually learning to incorporate enjoyment into all the experiences, whether they're good or they're bad.
mhm. I could not agree more. And, my book is called Reflections of Joy. And, I just think life is too short to not enjoy what's going on. We have you wanna be healthy, you wanna be productive, you wanna be a good citizen, right? But none of those things should be uncomfortable or restricted or, um, when it comes to health and wellness, there's so much deprivation that goes on. And gosh, there are so many good things in life and so many good people. And I just think you gotta get out there and you gotta experience it. Because what else is there in life if if you can't enjoy it?
That's something that I think a lot of the time becomes the hang up is we get caught on that path of achievement and reaching all these different goals in production that we lose sight that there is the other option. And what I'd like to have you do here is actually talk to somebody that could be in that situation where they're just realizing that there is another option, which brings fulfillment and a much happier way of life, but they don't know how to jump on that train track. Talk to them a little bit how to get started.
In everything I do, I recommend people start slowly. Just take the first step. Like we talked before, if somebody's working a 9 to 5 and they make a certain salary and all of that money goes towards all of their commitments, obviously they can't just quit their job and you know follow their heart. But they can start cutting back in the things that their money is expended on, and they can make a plan, right? And you can start saying no to some things. If someone's unhealthy and they wanna change their life, you got to start slow, because if you don't start slow, you're going to get stopped. In everything that we do, if you start slowly and you make a plan and you make room for just that 1% and then another 1% and another 1%, and you just ease your way into a life that you want, it's sustainable and it can continue forever. But what I've experienced in my coaching practice is, if when people want to go from left to right or from black to white or X to Z, and they just make that abrupt change, sometimes there's regret, sometimes there's discomfort, sometimes there's injury, there's all those things. And so what I would say is, if you don't love your life in whatever capacity it is, whether it's your career or your health or a relationship that you're in, you need to just start looking for those little ways to crowd out the bad and to find something that's good, right? Find a hobby, find some friends, talk to a counselor, find a coach, you know, eat a few more vegetables if you're unhealthy. I mean, but just a little bit at a time, and by doing it that way, you still are fulfilling your responsibilities, but you're starting to learn what life's like on the other side, right? You're starting to get a taste of the life that you want. And when you experience it and it's pleasurable to get there, it makes it a lot easier to start focusing your efforts on the place you want to be.
I think that's actually probably one of the most fundamental aspects of health and wellness and mindfulness is the fact that it's about being slow. It's about being intentional and practicing, exploring, being curious, and
Mhm.
seeing what works for you and then building.
Yep. I agree 100%.
So, Kim, this has been a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, you got to let people know how they can get your book, get in touch with you, work with you, all that good stuff.
Well, I tried to keep it simple. So I am Kim Mosman on Facebook, Instagram. My website is Kim Mosman Wellness, and I write regularly now that the book is done there. If you want, I am a wellness coach. I've just started coaching people who are writing and helping them get their words out into the world, because I think we need more perspectives and we need more options in our lives. And so you can find all that on my website, Kim Mosman Wellness. And my book, Reflections of Joy, is everywhere books are sold online.
Awesome. We're gonna have to just sit down and do this again sometime.
Yep. And I promise I'll be outside.
Perfect. Well, I don't believe in goodbye. It's too final. So
I agree.
until we meet again, whether it's this life or the next, I wish you a safe and prosperous journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much.